Hey, everybody. Thanks so much for joining us right here on The Right View. We are super excited tonight because we are joined by a congressman from Florida's 19th district, our friend Byron Donalds. Congressman Donalds, welcome to The Right View. Thank you so much for being on. Obviously, we got to start with the big news of the week. This week has all been about the indictment of my father-in-law, the 45th president of the United States, Donald J. Trump. Would love to get your thoughts on this. Of course, now after the arraignment has happened and after we have actually now seen what was in this indictment, or maybe the lack of what was in this indictment, what are your thoughts on everything that has taken place over really the past week in America?
My thoughts haven't changed from when this first started breaking. Probably when it started breaking a couple of weeks ago. This is political. This is high politics of the absolute worst kind. This is third world, banana republic type stuff, where you have the radical left is now using the criminal justice system to criminalize politics. And the number one target has always been Donald Trump. I mean, look, this stuff has been going on since before 2016. It's never stopped. The radical left, they picked the target, they personalized it, they've polarized it, and now they're trying to criminalize it. And this is straight Cloward Piven stuff that the radical left has always been supportive of and has been seeking for a very long time. For a lot of your viewers, you're like, what's he talking about, Cloward and Piven? These were two professors in a state university system of New York whose entire thesis was the only way you could fundamentally change America is that you had to pick these various targets and polarize them in the eyes of the American people. And you had to begin to unravel our key institutions in order to remake America in a Marxist socialist image. That was their position. This is the playbook of the radical left that we're seeing. So when you have a guy like Alvin Bragg, who everybody knows is funded by George Soros, talk about a bookmaking or a bookkeeping crime under New York law, citing some other crime he's covering up, but will never tell you what the other crime is because there is no crime. The only crime is that Donald Trump entered politics. He stopped the radical left's agenda dead in his tracks when he was president, and he's unapologetic about it. And because of that very simple fact, they have tried to do anything they could to destroy him. And now this is the next step in that. But the one thing that we all know, and you know this better than anybody, he is not going to bend the knee to the radical left and their crazy ideology and their insane games with the very fabric of our country. He's not going to stand down for this.
Yeah, they picked the wrong one when it came to Donald Trump because, I mean, let's face it, most people couldn't withstand what Donald Trump deals with in like the first hour of his morning, let alone all the attacks he's had against him since he decided to enter politics. I think it's really interesting what you're talking about when it comes to breaking down our institutions and remaking America, because we know that the Democrats, I mean, they didn't mince words about it. They said they wanted to fundamentally transform this country. And we know what the goal is. They have a globalist ideology. They want open, free flow of people, no borders. They want a currency that is, all for the, one thing for the entire world. They don't want America to be the superpower of the world anymore. Everyone should be equal and even. And that is absolutely terrifying. And I think people hear things like that and they say, well, that's a little far-fetched. Like nobody's actually trying to do this. But you're right, Congressman. That's exactly what we see happening right now. Why is it you would teach our kids in school to hate this country instead of loving this country? I can't think of a better way to get an entire generation of Americans not to want to fight for this country, to fight for a country that has stood as the world superpower for nearly 250 years and been the beacon of hope and freedom to all the rest of the world, no matter where you are. If we have a weakened America, we have a weakened world. It is a threat to every country in this world when America is weaker. But you're right. I think that's exactly what these people are doing. That's exactly the goal here. And they didn't really get it when they first started messing with Donald Trump. They thought he would fall flat like so many others have. Obviously, that is not going to happen. But I have to say about you, you have endured your share of attacks. You have endured so much. You got into the political game, I think, in 2016, right? Like officially. And how's it been for you? How's it been for your family? I know you're a dad, you're a husband. How has this all been for you? And is it what you expected?
Well, I mean, look, to be clear, it's exactly what I expected. I talked to members of Congress and other people who were involved in politics before I was elected, and I knew what it was. I knew it could be tough. The part I never really counted on was, would they now turn to the criminal justice system to try to exact their revenge in politics? Never anticipated that. I mean, but look, I'm a city kid at heart. I was born and raised in Brooklyn, New York. So, to me, you could say whatever you want unless you're going to bring it directly to my face. And so I don't really pay attention to a lot of the talk. I don't pay attention, to the online bullying and the stuff they try to do on Twitter and all that kind of stuff. I don't get into all that. I just do what's right. I look at the issues. I look at it logically. My mom, she always, when she raised me, she always told me to think logically, look at things logically. Don't get caught up in what everybody's saying. Don't get caught up in emotion. That's foolishness. She said, if you're going to be an adult and you're going to be somebody who excels, you got to, clear the decks, look at issues as they are, and then make your judgment accordingly. And my mom was not a conservative Republican. And she's a registered Democrat her entire life. But that's how she raised me. Those are the values she instilled in me. When I was 16 years old, what a lot of people don't know is I was held up at gunpoint. So when you're held up at gunpoint, a lot of things are put into perspective. So politics, I don't sweat these people because at the end of the day, I'm going to do the thing that I think is right. And so you can call me names. You can try to come at me. Most people do that on a keyboard. They don't really say it to my face.
Yeah. And the truth is they really don't come after people who are ineffective. They come after people who are effective. Take it from everybody in our whole family. Take it from Donald Trump. And I'm sure that's why they attack you the way they do and attack all of us the way they do. But the things that I think you're doing in Congress right now are so important. The great news is Republicans in the midterm election took back the House. We have majority there. And I think a lot has been going on that has been, great news for the country. You introduced a bill to prohibit nuclear funding for China. And I think that this is so important. People weren't even talking about China, Congressman, until Donald Trump started talking about China. Nobody had China on the radar. Well, we better have China on the radar now because make no mistake, they are trying to overtake us as the world's superpower. They're laughing at us in the way we handled the exit from Afghanistan. Every time our president or vice president speaks on the world stage, what's happening to Donald Trump right now? They're laughing, they're taking notes, they're sitting back, and they're waiting for their time to pounce. So maybe tell our audience a little bit more about this bill you introduced, because I think taking it to China and making sure that we keep them at bay probably is the most important thing right now for the world.
Well, back in 2011, there was a memorandum of understanding that was signed by then President Obama that allowed for the sharing of nuclear technologies. And when I mean nuclear technologies, I'm talking about the commercial nuclear stuff, it's dealing with reactors and how they function, that we would share that information with the Chinese government and do some funding projects and like shared grant stuff and things like that. My bill puts a stop to all that. And the reason why is because it's very clear China is our adversary on the globe. I guess you could say we're in this quasi Cold War with China right now. They are moving at warp speed because of the fecklessness of Joe Biden to build alliances around the globe, right around us, in our own hemisphere, by the way. They're on the move doing that as well. And so it's time for the United States Congress and frankly, the chief executive to stand up strong to China. The real issues that they pose to our country, I think really became clear to the American people during COVID-19. Whether you want to talk about the actual lab leak itself or the fact that our supply chains are so dependent on manufacturing in China, you want to talk about Belt and Road projects that they've been doing, et cetera, the islands they're building in the South Pacific, the growing of their naval fleet and their military. China is on the move. And what we need to start doing is treat them as the adversary they are and stop acting as if we're still in this post-Nixon era where we think we can just export our economy. And by exporting our economy, we're going to be exporting American values. China has a different plan. They have a different goal. They want to be the dominant power in the globe. And to bring this home for people who are not on my side of the political aisle or don't view this like I do, when America has been the dominant player in the globe, what has been happening around the globe was mostly peaceful, mostly prosperous, a flourishing of human rights across the globe. Obviously, there are areas where that didn't take place, but America has been a benevolent leader in the world. If we wanted to basically be a heavy-handed dominant player, we could have done that. We chose not to do that. We actually respect the dignity of other people. We just want people to be free. China does not share that view. If China is the dominant player in the globe, their value system is going to be the dominant value set in the globe. And so for all the people here on the radical left, who want to be able to say whatever they want, speak freely, protest and all the like, yeah, go try that with China, because China's not playing that game. With America, we let you talk. We let you speak. We want you to speak. It's what we value. We want you to be able to assemble. We value that. We want your voices to be heard. We value that. A world led by China is a very different world than so many on the left, and frankly, the radical left have really not properly understood and valued how important that is. And it's important that we take China seriously.
Well, I think you're spot on. I think a lot of people wonder, though, will we take China seriously? Will this government right now take China seriously? Because it sure doesn't look like Joe Biden is taking China seriously. We all know about the money the Biden family has made as a result of relations with China. And I think a lot of people wonder, why is it that when Joe Biden actually talks to President Xi on the phone, he's not asking about COVID-19? Why haven't we gotten to the bottom of that? Why is it that we had a spy balloon fly the entirety of our country all the way across? And now we know, Congressman, that it did have intelligence gathering capabilities, that it did fly over nuclear silos and military bases. How can we think that Joe Biden is taking this seriously? Because I think to a lot of people, they look at it and they say, the Biden family seems to be bought and paid for by China. Should we ever think that Joe Biden will do anything about them? I think the answer is probably no.
Look, I'll be very clear. From what I've already seen, and we're going to go back and see more of these financial records, I do believe the president's compromised. I believe that his family, his brother, and everybody talks about Hunter. Don't ignore Jimmy Biden, because he does it too. His brother and his son have been going around the globe using Joe Biden's name to basically collect checks. So now that he sits in the highest office in the land, you mean to tell me that the brother and the son have no influence on policy whatsoever? I mean, that's a flat out joke. How is Joe Biden living all these years past when he left the vice presidency? So that's all the stuff that we're going to uncover. So my primary concern is that, yes, he is compromised, that the family's business dealings, and let's be clear, they have no enterprise. They were not, a hotel or a real estate development magnate like Donald Trump and Trump Enterprises. That did not exist. The Biden family business has been influence peddling, first, second, and third. And so now that he's president, and now you're seeing all these things popping up, the spy balloon, what happened with Ukraine, the threats towards Taiwan, all the ramp ups in the South China Seas. What's Joe Biden doing? And the bigger question is, what is he not doing and why? Mm-hmm. And I think those are the things that House Republicans are committed to uncovering, because that's in the best interest of the American people. But I do think if you talk to members of Congress off camera, on the side, Democrat members, some of them are starting to realize the real threat that China is. And, politics aside, we need to start moving and acting as Americans together, Republican and Democrat, to make sure that we keep at bay the great adversary on the globe, which is China.
It's so true. And before I let you go, I want to ask you about this, because some people might not be aware, but the BRICS nations, that's Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, all met recently, Congressman, and they talked about forming their own currency and getting rid of the US dollar, getting rid of the euro as currency that they typically use. We know that the dollar really is what keeps us, the strong country that we are. Is that a concern? Is that anything that folks in Congress are talking about? Because first of all, when you have an alliance of any variety between nations like Russia and China, we know how big a threat that could be to America. But then to see them taking it a step further and talking about a new currency that they want to put in place, I think a lot of people are not aware as to what a big deal that ultimately could be to this country. And I think it's just another symptom of how America is getting weaker and weaker by the day with the current leadership in the White House.
No, you're absolutely correct. This meeting, this agreement that they're putting together is a real threat to us. Here's why. Energy is the lifeblood of every economy. I don't care what the radical left says. It is about energy policy first, second, and third. If you have a sound energy policy with cheap and readily available energy, then you have the building blocks to build a dynamic and strong economy. If you have these nations led by China and Russia creating another mechanism to transact outside the US dollar, then they're going to take the influence from America and build their own sphere of influence around the globe. This goes back to the threat of China trying to be the world's dominant superpower and all that brings with it. So we have to be on the ball and be serious about this. I don't think the White House is serious about this at all because they're in this sophomoric land of trying to essentially power the country with solar panels and windmills, by the way, which also empowers China because China dominates the globe on mineral production and mining, and they dominate the globe on battery creation. China has dominated all of that stuff. So we're going to send American dollars for the Green New Deal stuff, and then they're going to create this other metric of trade with another currency to deal with oil and gas around us. That weakens America, does not help America. And look, even for the environmentalist left, people who care about saving the planet, they subscribe to climate change and all this other stuff. Let me be very clear. China does not care about your values. China will pump. They will pump more oil. They will burn more coal. They will mine more cobalt. They do it very, very dirty. They don't care about emission standards. They're not focused on any of that stuff. So even if you truly believe you're helping to save the planet, what you're really doing is turning the planet over to a regime who does not care about what you believe in. So Americans have to get real. And the way I talk about this stuff, Laura, not from just purely a Republican perspective, I'm trying to help Democrats and independents understand that if we don't put the first things first, if we don't make sure that America is the leader in the globe, if we don't make sure that we are the dominant energy player in the globe, we will subvert ourselves to other powers and other players who do not share our values. And that's the true protection of America. That is the true protection of an American democracy and American way of life. And I hope that more Americans join us in that battle and in that fight.
Amen to that. I mean, we have to. It's really not about whether you're a Republican or a Democrat. I mean, every American should be concerned about these things. But the truth is, they are not getting this information out there. If you were listening to certain outlets or you're getting your news from certain places, they will never touch this stuff. They don't want to talk about the fact that the batteries for all the electric vehicles are, as you said, made over in China. The Paris Climate Accord was such an insult to us as America because you have China and India just allowing anything into the atmosphere and the environment that they want, and they are the major polluters. If you're not addressing that, why are we doing anything about it? We do it the clean way, as you just said. They don't care about any of that. It is so crazy, but I hope people wake up and get this. The truth is, we're not going to get it from the current president. We're not going to get it from the United States Senate right now because they are controlled by the Democrat Party. Thank goodness you guys in the House have at least a majority right now, so you can make moves on important things like this. But I have to ask you, Congressman, I know you're the father of 3 boys. How old are your sons?
19, 15, and 11.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Well, mine are much younger than yours. I have a 3 and a 5-year-old. How do they feel? Are they impressed that their dad is a congressman, or are they like you're not cool anymore? How does it go in your house? Because I think it's always so interesting. People who so many of us look up to, like you, and we find so impressive. I feel like it's always the kids that are like, whatever, that's just dad. Are they impressed at all?
Yeah, that's kind of the thing. They're like, man, that's dad. That's what dad does. I mean, sometimes they come with me to events and stuff like that. And so they'll be like, hey, can I meet Donald Trump? So actually, my 11-year-old son was mad. I didn't take him to a thing at Mar-a-Lago one time, but I
Oh,
took my 15-year-old. So the 15-year-old, he meets the president. And the 11, and we get home, and 11, and he goes, you met Donald Trump? You took him? I was like, hey, sorry, man. You wanted to like be in after school and play and have a good fun. I would have. He's like mad at me. Like I would have went. I was like, I'll take care of it. I got you. I'll make sure you meet him. But they think part of it is cool. But they just want to be kids. And then, at home, we talk politics a little bit. They have their own opinions, shaped by me, of course, but they have their own opinions. But they just want to be kids. We focus on just doing the right thing, making sure you're paying attention in school, athletics, working hard, like what it takes to really be successful. And sometimes I give them the dad talk and they're like, all right, dad, that's enough. Bye. Go back, go give a speech to somebody else, not me. But I'm just dad.
Oh, well, I mean, that's the best role of all, right? That's the most important job you'll ever have. The most important title you'll ever have is the title of dad. And I think every parent understands that out there. But I'm sure, look, now is a tough time for so many parents. This is, what we see happening in schools across this country and the way it really feels like an entire generation is being indoctrinated and not educated. We see educational standards lacking and falling behind, and test scores not even mattering anymore. You get rid of standardized testing altogether. It's a tough time, I think, to be a parent, but I'm sure you have done an incredible job with your kids. And tell your 11-year-old, anytime he wants to come to Mar-a-Lago and meet Donald Trump, we know how to make it happen. Let me know. We'll set it up. We'll make a whole thing about it. But it's funny because my kids, obviously being as young as they are, they really don't appreciate who grandpa is yet. They just like to go to grandpa's house because he gives them candy when they go there and they get to go play on the beach. So they're always like, can we go see grandpa? And I'm like, you just want to get some chocolate. I already know what you guys want. But tell your 11-year-old, we'll get that on the docket. Before I let you go, I want to make sure we address any major goals you might have this year in Congress that we haven't even talked about. Look, there's a lot to do. There's no doubt right now, 2023, obviously we're leading into an election year. We got a lot of mess to clean up from the past 2 years. Anything we didn't talk about that you're focused on for the coming year?
Well, a couple things. One, House Republicans, we're committed to figuring out this debt ceiling situation we're facing. Let's be very clear. Joe Biden, Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, they want to have brinksmanship. They don't care about our debt ceiling per se. What they want is a political fight. The reason why I say that is because if Joe Biden wanted a clean debt ceiling, like he's saying in the news, he could have done that when Nancy Pelosi was Speaker in the House. Right. He did not. They didn't do it on purpose because they want to set up a fight. So House Republicans, we're focused on making sure that we cut necessary spending so we can find a way to do that. Number two, when we get back, we're going to start marking up bills about border security and making sure that we show the House Republican plan about how we're going to secure our southern border, because what's happening is a mockery. It is a joke. No other nation does this. No other nation. And this is all being done by Joe Biden and the radicals in the White House. And it's frankly a travesty for the nation. And number three, one of the key policy items, we talked a little bit about nuclear with respect to China, but one of the things that I'm focused on is actually bringing back nuclear power commercially here in the United States. We have not built a new reactor that people can rely on for energy since 1976. That's wow. The last nuclear reactor we built in the United States. It makes no sense at all. And for the people on the left who are environmentalists and Green New Deal types, nuclear power is more green than solar panels or windmills. We can do it here. We can actually increase our baseload power. That will make energy cheaper for Americans, rich, middle income, poor. For everybody, it's cheaper. It will help our economy. It will actually cut this inflation that Joe Biden unleashed on us. So that's one of the big things that I'm focused on. A lot of members are focused on. We've been able to get some bipartisan agreement on some of the stuff. So stay tuned on that as well.
We will stay tuned. We're always watching. You are a rock star. You have so many people who love you all across this country. And we are so proud that you are representing the state of Florida in the United States Congress, because it is my home now as well. So, Congressman Byron Donalds, thank you for joining us. We are going to keep an eye on everything going on and go get them for all of us across this country, because we're relying on you guys in Congress. You're really our hope right now until we get a new president in office and we get control of the Senate back. So thank you for joining us. Good luck with everything. And thank you to everybody, as always, for joining us right here on The Right View. We'll see you back here next time for more.